to the latest weekly unemployment numbers. An additional 963 million people filed new claims for unemployment insurance this week, or at least for the week that ended on August 8th. So, this is the good news. It's the first time the initial jobless claims dropped below 1 million since March. Meantime, unfortunately, discussions over the next coronavirus stimulus package, well, those conversations have hit a stalemate. So Frances Stacy is here to talk to us a little bit more about what the numbers really mean in real life and not on paper. So, Frances, the good news is I guess we're seeing a trend, right? The initial jobless claims continue to go down. They are now under 1 million. Is this a blip, or is this a trend that we can start to count on?
Of course, good morning. Only time will tell. But this is really great news. And actually, we did have a few weeks ago an uptick in the jobless claims, but then we've had steady declines in both the unemployment rate, the jobless claims, and the continuing claims, which is all good news. It's really pretty fantastic news, even though before the pandemic, you really only had a high of 625 weekly jobless claims. Relatively speaking, it's bad news, but as far as the pandemic is concerned, it is very, very good news, Anne-Marie.
Okay, then what's driving this? Why is this the first time since March we've seen the number dip below 1 million?
Well, I can only speak to what I'm seeing around me. Many of the states that reversed their openings, did so somewhat partially, some fully, but it wasn't the reversal of the entire economy shutting down across states. So, for instance, I live on the Nevada and California border. California is super shut down, but Nevada is very open. I can go to yoga class with a mask. I can go to restaurants and eat inside. I can do those things. And even though restaurants are still constrained at 50% capacity or what have you, and they're still suffering from some of the food costs going up, I think that we are not back to where we were with the shutdown. And so it just makes sense that fortunately this number continues to improve. This data isn't super lagging. Some of the data from last week, the TSA was down a little bit, Open Table was down a little bit, but talking to the local restaurants around here, they're busier than ever, surprisingly enough. So I think that's what's contributing to the steady decline in these numbers.
All right, so that is all good news. There is a concern, though. Congress doesn't seem to be able to hammer out a new stimulus package, and the longer they wait, the longer it's going to be for whatever the check is to be put in the mail for, your average American. Right now, it looks like they won't, new money won't be coming until at least September. Are investors concerned about that?
I don't know that investors are concerned about that because the Fed did such a good job of shoring up the liquidity risk in the markets, and we haven't yet seen that solvency risk really appear, even though, about 25% or 20% of companies, are reaching kind of that zombie status, meaning that their, profits and revenues are lower than their debt service. However, yes, there are some Americans who are getting hit very hard. I was actually quite pleased to see in this political stalemate that the president did go through with his executive orders. Of course, they will be challenged in court. That's never the ideal scenario, but it didn't look like some of the political gridlock was going to move. We still do need more fiscal stimulus moving forward. I'm hoping Congress can take all of the political issues out of it, because then they can just get the money to the American people. If they can just take some of the political hot buttons that no politician will agree to, because we're in an election year, I think you could sort of meet in the middle on the money and get something else passed. Of course, you will have people falling through the cracks, who are using that stimulus that's delayed to meet their everyday needs. I do think that we're going to see, certain situations where people are lining up to receive food and things like that again, unfortunately. But hopefully Congress can just say, all right, we're going to worry about the politics in a month or two. Let's just get this money out. Let's take these hot button political issues out, because that's where the stalemate is occurring.
All right, Frances Stacy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.